want to call to order the subcommittee meeting. If Madam Clerk, if you can please call the roll.
Director Avika? Here. Director Yamani? Here. Chair McKenna?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Ms. Yamani, if you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand if you can. Ready, begin.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Madam Clerk, are there any items to be added or withdrawn from this agenda?
There are none.
Okay. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments or public emails?
We do not.
Right. Well, looks like we do have one. Would you like to come up and speak?
Good, thank you. We get signed up and then unsigned.
Okay.
So,
Well, we'll sign you up again then.
thanks. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. So good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm Scott Andrews, President and CEO of Neighborhood National Bank. Neighborhood National Bank has proudly served the small businesses and residents of San Diego County since 1997, and we're the only financial institution CDFI in the county. This bank was founded on the premise of being a good neighbor and giving back to the community. We are a full-service, business-focused community bank with our product lines including loans and deposit accounts for businesses, nonprofits, municipalities, and NGOs, along with consumers. As the only local community bank headquartered in South County, we pride ourselves on utilizing local deposits to invest back into low and moderate income communities that we serve. Our mission is to provide loans to minority, women, and better known small businesses operating in low and moderate income communities, along with affordable housing. In 2022, 91% of our loans were made in those census tracts, 75% last year. And to remain qualified, it requires 60% of our loans in those areas. Through our community involvement, Neighborhood National Bank is actively serving and supporting charitable organizations that address vital community needs, both in time and with financial support. San Diego Community Power and Neighborhood National Bank are both community-driven organizations. We are seeking deposits from San Diego Community Power that will be recycled back into the local community in the form of loans and grants. We have fully FDIC insured products that will provide for the safety of your deposits and can offer competitive rates of return. Deposits we receive from San Diego Community Power will be invested back into the local community in businesses, particularly operating in those low and moderate income communities where typically capital is hard to come by. We also provide financial literacy and consultative banking for our customers, helping them to grow and expand. Neighborhood will be opening a new branch in National City early next year. And as many financial institutions are leaving low and moderate income communities, Neighborhood is expanding our presence. And we are actively involved in the cities you folks represent, along with many others in San Diego County. So we would request the committee consider, and I understand there's an RFP process, but we'd like to consider the committee to consider establishing a banking relationship with Neighborhood National, and would appreciate the opportunity to meet with you. So thank you, Chair McCann, for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you very much. And I will go ahead and do a referral to Dr. Eric Washington, and you can talk to him.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there any more public comments?
We do not have more.
Okay, we'll move to the consent calendar. That's all there is the approval of the September 19th, 2024 meeting minutes. So I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
A second, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion and a second. Are there anybody who would like to talk on the consent calendar, Madam Clerk?
No.
Okay. With that, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Item carries unanimously. We'll now move on to the regular agenda, and this will be the fiscal year ending 2023-24 fiscal audit progress report presentation. And I will go ahead and recognize Dr. Washington.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Eric Washington, Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer at San Diego Community Power. We are in audit season for our organization. As you'll recall, we're required under our JPA to complete an audit at the end of each annual fiscal year period. So the FRMC, or the Finance and Risk Management Committee, serves as members of the audit committee as well. So with us this afternoon, we have Vicente & Brinker, the audit firm and the audit team that's completing our audit report, just to provide an update on the progress for the fiscal year-end period audit. I believe they are joining virtually. And so with that, I will actually, let's go to the next slide, please. The next slide, please. So this is our audit team. And with this, I will pass it over to Brett and Alejandra to introduce themselves and provide the committee with an update on the progress of the fiscal year end 23-24 financial audit report. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brett Bradford. I'm an audit partner with Vicente & Brinker. I've been doing audits of local governments in the state of California for several years, and we're currently working with several CCAs throughout California. And I'm here with my associate, Alejandra Schaefer, today, who's the supervisor on the audit and has been working with CCAs for several years as well. And I believe she's going to take us through these slides. They're brief, but please feel free to interrupt with any questions whatsoever.
Alejandra, I believe we're having a difficult time hearing you. Did we lose her?
Is that better?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay, there we go. If we can go to the next slide. Okay, there we go. So as of right now, the 2024 audit is near completion. We are planning on reporting an unmodified opinion, which means that the financial statements are materially accurate and there's no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal control. So this is typically the best type of opinion that you could receive on a financial statement. If you can go to the next slide, please. The relative roles and responsibilities. So management is responsible for preparing the financial statements and establishing internal controls. As the auditor, we're responsible for auditing the financial statements. We consider risks of material misstatements. We look at internal controls relevant to the financial statements. We perform testing over year-end balance.
Action is that just accept and receive, or do we need to make a vote?
And sorry, I thought I maybe heard a question. Some significant areas of focus are revenue recognition. So for AR and both accrued revenue, we look at a sample of customer billing. We relate cash received during the year back to revenue. We look at cash received subsequent to year end. And then we also look at the revenue recognition through year end and the method for determining that, which would be the accrued revenue. For cash and securities, it's we send confirmations to financial institutions. That one's pretty straightforward. You can go to the next slide, please. Accrued cost of electricity. So we review subsequent bills from the electricity providers and cash payments. And our financial statement note disclosures, we confirm that they're complete and without bias. This is our communication that's pretty standard. So there were no new material accounting policies adopted by San Diego throughout the period under audit. And there was no alternative treatments of accounting principles for material items in the financial statements that were discussed with management. At this point, we're not expecting to propose any adjustments to the financial statements, and we have not identified any significant or unusual transactions or applications of accounting principles that lack the guidance. There were no disagreements with management concerning the scope of our audit, application of accounting principles, or management's judgment on significant matters, and we didn't encounter any difficulties dealing with management during the performance of our audit.
Thank you, Ali.
course, is there any questions?
Thank you very much. Board, do we have any questions for the presenter?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
this is just an extension of their contract, correct? This is not an audit report, correct?
That's correct, Vice Mayor. This is not an audit report. We already have a contract with the auditing firm. So this is essentially an update on the progress for the audit for fiscal year 23-24.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mayor Guri?
Thank you. I asked this question during our briefing, but just for the public's benefit, when do we expect the full audit to come to us?
So I'll certainly ask for the audit team to confirm, but I believe we are on track for delivery of the draft of the final audit by November 7th.
That's correct.
Thank you very much. And Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers on this item?
We do not.
Okay. I know this was sort of a little different than the treasurer's report, but I'll go ahead and just make a motion to be able to pass this on to the larger board. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. With that, I will go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Item is unanimous. We'll now move on to item number 4. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. For an update, that actually was item number 2, and now we're moving to item number 3.
Item number 3 is the treasurer's report. If we could go to the beginning of that presentation. Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Again, Dr. Eric Washington, Chief Financial Officer, Treasurer at San Diego Community Power. I'll be presenting a recommendation to receive and file the treasury report through our year-to-date period ending July 31st, which marks the end of the first month in our fiscal reporting cycle. Next slide, please. So overall, the results year-to-date are positive. Our net operating revenue finished about 15% over what we budgeted for, while operating expenses came in slightly higher than we had budgeted for, as you can see in the chart in the upper right-hand corner of this slide. So as we continue to be exposed in the short-term energy markets, that's one of the key drivers behind the increase of the energy costs, total costs, which are pretty much centered in the cost of energy, which represents 86% of our net revenues. So the demand for the first month into our fiscal year period was slightly higher. So that also contributed to us being slightly over on the cost of energy, attributing to the overall overage on expenses. However, with revenue coming in approximately 15% over, our net position came in slightly above what we budgeted for, which is good news for us, meaning that we were able to contribute nearly $47 million to our reserves year to date for the period ending July 31st, 2024. Next slide, please. This slide is depicting the results of the net position year to date with a reserve contribution, as I pointed out, $46 million, where our goal was $34 million, or I should say our budget was $44 million, bringing our total reserves from a cash perspective up to $296 million. Then total access to liquidity, including availability on our revolving line of credit, we had a total of $408 million. So from a cash perspective, we are 56% of our reserve target year to date. So we've got work ahead of us to continue to build on those reserves. But at the time of the period end, we had 0 outstanding on our line of credit. Next slide, please. So this slide is essentially a depiction of our reserve trajectory over the past 12 months. As you can see, there's been, some dynamics associated with it, again, driven by the exposure to the short-term energy market. However, we finished year to date with 140 days total liquidity on hand and 102 days of cash on hand. Next slide, please. So this slide is one where we continue to track our participation rates. As previously presented, participation is key, one of the key matrices in terms of the retention of our customer base, and we continue to overall have a participation rate of just under 96%, which is one of the highest in the state among other CCAs. And so we are continuing to take measures and make sure that our customer base remain informed and will stay with the clean renewable power program that's offered by San Diego Community Power. Next slide, please. That concludes my presentation of the Treasurer's report. Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, do we have any speakers for this item?
We do not.
Or do we have any comments? This is a receive and file item, so we will now move on to item number 4.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Presenting item number 4 is a resolution that we'll present to the board that will allow or authorize staff to execute on the prepaid financing transaction with Triple CFA serving as the issuer. The resolution will also provide guidelines in terms of the parameters in which we'll transact under the resolution. So essentially, we are looking to issue bonds to prepay for a portion of our energy portfolio, not to exceed $1.5 billion in terms of the par value of the bond issuance, and no less than an 8% discount that will translate in savings to our ratepayers. Next slide, please. So the next few slides are slides that we should be familiar with. You'll recall that our financial advisor, PFM Financial Advisors, provided just an overview of the transaction and some of the parameters, the goals associated with it, and how we're able to leverage bond capacity to really secure a long-term power supply. And under certain codes, under the tax law, we're able to do these transactions. And over 100 transactions totaling $75 billion completed in the U.S., mostly in the gas market, with most recently 12 transactions among other community choice aggregators throughout the state. We've transacted $11.3 billion. Next slide, please. So this slide is essentially a presentation of transactions dating back to 2006 in the gas markets primarily. There's some electric components in there as well, but as you can see, historically, the gas market has leveraged these tax-exempt bonds to prepay for resources. The next slide, please. And so what the transactions have translated to, specifically in what I'll refer to as community choice or the CCA sector, we've been able to yield discounts above 9.5% historically, with the most recent transactions being in the double-digit discount range. Next slide, please. So just as a reminder, as we go to the board with the resolution, which we're asking for the committee to support a recommendation to the board, the various parties that are involved in the transaction, including Community Power, the various counterparties, the energy providers, the issuer, which the board approved our membership with the CCCFA. I often refer to it as a triple CFA, so that they are able to issue the bonds on our behalf, where we'll take existing power supplies that will be assigned under a limited assignment agreement, the bond investors that will ultimately purchase the bonds once they go out into the market, and then the service providers, including the various tax attorneys, bond counsel, disclosure counsel, and our municipal financial advisor. Next slide, please. So here's an update of where we are today. So at our last committee meeting, this committee supported the recommendation for approval of a resolution that allowed Community Power to become a member of the issuing entity, the CCCFA, which has been approved, and we are closing the membership requirements so that we'll officially become members, which brings us to the meeting today where we're presenting a potential recommendation for board approval on the resolution that will allow us to transact on the bond transaction. And then the next steps would be a presentation to the board with the hopes of the board approving the resolution to allow us to execute. And then we'll execute on the prepaid agreement that will allow us to go out into the market with the bond to get the prepaid proceeds and start to realize some of the savings from that transaction. We're targeting a closing date of November 19th. Full disclosure, the market and the timing of the close of the transaction can be a bit fluid depending on timing going into the market, but all things are looking really positive as of today that the timing is a reality for us to get the approvals in place and get the transaction out to the market. Next slide, please. That concludes my presentation on item 4. Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Board, do we have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I think we have heard this from our past meeting, and this is a good resource for our organization. And I move to approve a recommendation from staff for resolution number 2024-08.
I'll second that, and I'll just ask the mayor, do you have any questions? Okay, great. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers on this item?
We did not.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, if you want to please read the heading or the text of this item.
The recommendation.
Yes.
Recommend board approval to adopt resolution number 2024-08, approving parameters under which an energy prepayment transaction can be completed, authorizing and/or approving documents or form of documents supporting the prepaid transaction, and directing California Community Choice Financing Authority, CCCFA, to make payments to service providers for issuance costs from prepaid bond receipts.
Thank you very much. With that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Item carries unanimously. We will now move on to item number 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, for the record, Dr. Eric Washington, Chief Financial Officer, Treasurer of San Diego Community Power. We are seeking recommendation from the Finance and Risk Management Committee to recommend San Diego Community Power Board of Directors approval to authorize Chief Financial Officer or Chief Executive Officer to execute an amendment to the revolving line of credit agreement and related documents necessary to implement an increase to the existing line of credit from $150 million to $250 million with JP Morgan Bank. Next slide, please. So the increase that we are seeking approval for will continue to support our energy procurement. As I mentioned during the treasurer's report presentation, we continue to experience volatility in the energy markets. Just by way of background, for the budget amendment cycle for fiscal year 2022, we came back to the board for an amendment north of 70, I believe it was 75 million to increase the cost of energy. And then again in 2023 at a similar dollar amount. So that's just an indication of the volatility that we have been exposed to and could potentially continue to be exposed to. So the importance of having this line of credit in place really gives us the fiscal wherewithal to respond if that scenario continues to play out, to ensure that we continue to maintain San Diego Community Power as a financially stable organization. So the increase amount essentially is the key change to the transaction. And then also we were able to go back and renegotiate some of the fee structure associated with the credit facility to support the issuances of standby letters of credit. I would also like to point out that JP Morgan Chase Bank, the banking team that handles our account, they have been really responsive. They have been supportive and continue to look for opportunities to solidify the relationship that we have and maintain the level of service that is really needed for us to be able to transact and continue to maintain our financial footing. Next slide, please. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'm seeking a recommendation for board approval of the amendment to the revolving line of credit agreement with JP Morgan to increase the credit facility from $150 million to $250 million. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, are there any speakers on this item?
No.
Okay. And board, do we have any comments or questions?
Question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Have we used any of the 150 LCs? And the fee will reduce from 1.10% to 1.05%. Is that how I'm reading this, Mr. CFO?
Yes, Madam Vice Mayor. We have used the $150 million line of credit. We currently have just under $38 million outstanding on the line of credit. Not outstanding on the line of credit, but the line of credit supports approximately $38 million in letters of credit that we post in lieu of cash or collateral to various entities that we transact with.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Mayor Rivera.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to move the item. I think I want to thank Dr. Washington and the team for working on this. I think it's a good rainy day source. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So happy to make the motion.
Second that, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion and a second to go ahead and approve item 5 for the board approval of amendment to the revolving credit agreement with JP Morgan to increase the credit facility from $150 million to $250 million. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Items carries unanimously. We will now move to committee member announcements. Do we have any announcements by the committee?
No, Mr. Chair.
No? Everything's going well.
See you tomorrow. I'll see you at our meeting.
Yes. Thank you very much. And just wanted to, again, appreciate the finance staff. They did a great job on this. Thank you, Dr. Washington. And thank you for all the other San Diego Community Power staff coming down to the great city of Chula Vista to have the meeting here. With that, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting, and then we will see you tomorrow at the San Diego Community Power meeting.